And now, time for the main event of the Go Home Show pod. This podcast has been very Hell in a Cell centric. Inconvinced me, we said we couldn't choose Undertaker versus Mick Foley at King of the Ring 98 as the greatest of all time because we want to talk about it more. It is time for Network and Chill. And this week's show is WWE Untold, which is available on YouTube in full. Mick Foley versus Undertaker, King of the Ring, 1998. We hear everyone's reaction to the match. We hear from The Undertaker. We hear from Mick Foley. We hear from Sergeant Slaughter. We hear from Tim White, who's the referee on the day, plus much more about what was going through their mind during the match. So for those who don't remember, this is the classic Hell in a Cell match. This is probably the pop culture Hell in a Cell match where Mick Foley gets thrown off the top through the announce table. He then gets carted off on a stretcher. He then comes back to the ring. And that kind of moment of him fighting off all the staff to get back to the ring is a real thing, as we hear in the Untold, because they're saying we shouldn't be doing anything else here. They're all convincing him to go to the back and get medical attention. He fights them all off. He gets back on top of their cell, trade-offs with The Undertaker before getting chokeslammed through the cell. A chair falls on his face, which is why we get the classic tooth through the nose shot, which is harrowing to see again. This show, for something that's available for free on YouTube, for me, is nonsense because it is so interesting and there's so much information packed into just 15 minutes. Elliot, what were your thoughts?
It's one of them. This match is one of the greatest wrestling urban legends because we keep on hearing new little bits of information as we're going forward. The main bit of insight I really appreciated was listening to Tim White, being the guy who had to officiate over this entire bonkers, one-of-a-kind moment match that has never been topped in terms of its brutality and maybe also from the actual stipulation itself. But just having to react to what's going on. Wrestling is, it's like ballet. It's improvised. It's going on the fly, and it's just having to it's just reacting. That's all it is. It's just reacting. And I don't understand how anybody involved in that, from the officials to the camera operators to the wrestlers themselves, didn't end up getting severely hurt or possibly dying. And when you hear about the stuff like how The Undertaker had a broken leg, going into it, and how they were hearing that the cell was not as stable as they thought it was. It's like, how did this bonkersness happen? And how is everyone here still alive to talk about it today?
I think what I found really interesting was Mick Foley was saying after the match, he goes into the back and he goes up to Vince. And Vince says to him, I think the line was, "Thank you for everything you've done for me today, but don't ever do it again." Which then begs the question, how hamstrung are current Hell in a Cell matches by that match? Because that, if we talk about you always want to build and build and build and build and build. And in fact, in the interview of Pretty Deadly from Crusher, they say something along the lines of, this match is your job interview for your next one, which is the same with these matches. You've got to do more than the last one and everyone will always judge you backwards. How difficult must it be for talent to do Hell in a Cell matches, do you think, Will?
I think I sort of alluded to it a little bit in the Room 101. So I think Hell in a Cell needs a bit of a break because obviously we come to this moment, and rightly so. It's a standout moment, like we've said, in not just WWE, but it's, if you were to introduce someone to wrestling, you'd show them this moment. But I really do think, as a wider point, Hell in a Cell needs a rest because it's lost its mystique, it's lost its sort of danger, and I just don't feel it is where it once was. I remember, you remember when you first saw the Elimination Chamber at Survivor Series 2002, that you felt this is unbelievable. It's unbelievable feat of engineering and structure, and it's going to cause so much damage. And Hell in a Cell's just lost that now. So yeah, I think like you said, there's no way that anybody can top that one because it's a health and safety nightmare. And two, I wouldn't want to see that anyway because knowing what we know now, especially learning from this WWE Untold, it just wouldn't be right, would it?
No, I think that the very, very scary moment in the match, which you probably don't realise it when you first watch it, but then you hear this, is when Mick Foley goes off the top and he gets taken away on a stretcher, his shoulders popped out, he's all messed up. He makes his way back up to the top and he says when he got to the top, he was all out of energy. Everything he had to give, he had given at this point. And he says that's probably the thing that saved his wrestling career and potentially even his life because when he went to do the chokeslam bump, he couldn't jump at all. And you watch it, literally one leg half kicks up and he flops backwards. goes through the cell. Like, how mad must that be to think of as Mick Foley now looking back at that moment and thinking, like, that could have been... I mean, it didn't go well for him. A chair fell on his face. He knocked his tooth up through his nose. He was out cold. He must look back at that moment and think that could very easily have been the end of at least wrestling, let alone anything else. Like, I don't get how you can get out of that headspace.
Yeah, I mean, it's legit crazy. Like, even going back to the start of the match or even before the show starts, he says that Vince came up to him and said, has he been up at the top? Like, what does he think? And he lied to him and said, yes, he'd already been up. And then when he started the match on top of the cell, he realised he shouldn't have said that, like, because of how scary it was. And then to hear him say that if he over-rotated, he would have potentially broken his neck, as you mentioned, end his wrestling career, and he could have died. Like, it's crazy. Like, Taker had the broken foot, Foley's popped his shoulder out during the match, you've got the tooth through the nose. Like, honestly, an incredible match. It has such a legacy.